This is the World Series, the Super Bowl, and the Olympics all rolled up into one. And if you don't feel that kind of power and passion about what you do all day, every day, you either need to find something new to do or you need to find a new attitude, and this morning would not be too soon. So the first thing I want to make sure you remember is you have the right to choose. And when you're successful, you know who to pat on the back. Just find the nearest mirror, look right in there. And when things aren't going the way you want them to, the same mirror will work just as well. It's all up to you. The second thing I want to make sure you know when you leave this room, that you may or may not have known when you came in, is that you're one quality decision away from anything you want, because you change your life when you change your mind. That's the most dynamic concept you will ever encounter. You change your life when you change your mind. Everything you'll ever do and know and have and believe and create and leave behind as a legacy is based on the fact that you change your life when you change your mind. Some of you are going to do that today. Maybe just one of you. If that's you, you're the one I came to talk to. You know, we all had those dreams, those goals, those ambitions when we were teenagers or young adults. Remember that? Man, I'm going to be this, do this, create this. I'm going to change the world. And somewhere between there and here, life set in. And we got so busy making a living that we forgot to create a life and live out our destiny. Well, I came here today to tell you that the biggest dream you ever had is alive and well. I'm talking about the big, scary dream. The one you haven't thought about in 5 or 10 or 15 years. It's buried down there, way down deep inside you. And every time you start to think about it, your subconscious comes up with well, I don't know how to do it, when to do it, where to do it, who to do it with, I don't know where to get the money, that could never happen, and it'll go away for a while. But I want you to know that big dream is alive and well. And the only thing you've got to do to activate it this morning is go into that little voting booth in the middle of your soul that only you and God know about. And you think of that big dream, the reason you were put on this planet, your destiny. And you go into that little voting booth and you grab the lever that says yes. And you vote for yourself. And what you'll find out is God Almighty voted for you a long time ago. And some of you are going to do that today. 20 years from now, you'll remember this morning. You won't remember me or anything I said, but you'll remember that's the day I said yes to the big dream. And I changed my life when I changed my mind. It all begins with that change of mind. Now, people ask me all the time, Jim, if it's just that simple, if all you got to do is exercise your right to choose and make a quality decision and change your life when you change your mind, why do so many people fail? Well, it's what I call the spider monkey syndrome. Now, this is the deep intellectual part of our program this morning. So if someone around you looks a little slow, you may have to help them through this. And if everyone's looking at you right now, never mind. Spider monkeys are little tiny primates. They live in the tallest trees in the most dense jungle in the Amazon basin. And for years they tried to capture the spider monkeys. They wanted to ship them back to America and sell them to us as pets. That's our reputation around the world. We are the ultra consumers. If you can capture it and ship it, the Americans will buy it. So for years they tried to capture these little spider monkeys. Well, first they tried to get them with these giant nets. They would shoot up into the rainforest there, but the monkeys are too fast and they're too small, so they can either slip around or squeeze through the nets. And next they tried to shoot them with these tranquilizer dart guns, but they're too fast and there's too many leaves and branches in between. And they were frustrated in every attempt to capture the spider monkeys until one of the natives came and showed them how to do it. And I'm going to share that with you here this morning. So when you go back home and somebody asks you, what did you learn from that weird blind guy? You tell them, I learned how to capture a spider monkey. Now, it may not seem like a big deal to you right now, but if there's an outbreak of these in your neighborhood, you'll thank me then. You'll be the only one on your block who knows how to do this. The way you capture a spider monkey is you take one peanut. You put the peanut inside of a clear glass bottle. You place that bottle at the base of a tree and you leave. You have now created the perfect spider monkey trap. Eventually that little spider monkey, he'll look way down there and he'll see that peanut in that bottle. And eventually he'll climb down the tree, put his little hand in there, grab that peanut, making his fist too large to get out of the bottle. And you have captured you a spider monkey. You can come back an hour, a day, or a week later, and he'll be standing there holding on to that peanut that he can't eat anyway. But he'll just stand there holding on to it. In fact, you can come up next to him and put a whole bag of peanuts right next to him there. But he'll just stand there holding on to that one peanut that he didn't want in the first place, and he can't eat it anyway. You can put bananas all around him there, and he'll just stand there holding on to that peanut. He'll eventually starve to death if you don't help him. You can have other little spider monkeys running around him there playing little spider monkey games. And he'll stand there all by himself holding on to one peanut. You can take away his freedom. You can take away his very life. And he'll stand there holding on to something he didn't really want, and it doesn't do him a bit of good. Because, ladies and gentlemen, after conducting exhaustive research myself, becoming one of the world's leading authorities on the subject of spider monkeys, I've read 2 entire books on the species, which is pretty much the entire body of knowledge as it relates to the spider monkeys. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe I can say to you this morning, without fear of contradiction, folks, spider monkeys are stupid. That's right. But before we laugh too much at the spider monkeys, we got to ask ourselves, what is it in our lives we've been holding on to for years that we didn't want in the first place that is keeping us from everything we ever wanted in this world? Some of us traded our destiny for a peanut. And I got to tell you, I have written over 40 books and 10 million copies in print, and my phone number or email address is in all of them. And I respond to every last person. So you can imagine how many people I hear from all around the world. And as I hear from people who are striving to reach their goals and make a difference and discover and live their own destiny, I have found the biggest impediment most people have to getting from where they are to where they want to be is they're carrying a lot of garbage. If you want success and happiness and joy, you've got to let go of bitterness and unforgiveness and self-doubt. You can't have it both ways. And I'm going to ask you to do something today, a little bit of a leap of faith. I have made arrangements with the building management right here. So some of you have that unforgiveness, those people that did you wrong, or life wasn't fair. Hey, you're talking to a blind guy. I know life isn't fair. Bad things happen to good people. But for every person defeated by the circumstance, I'll show you someone else that used that same circumstance as a springboard to everything they ever wanted, and they're living their destiny. But too many people, they're running around carrying that unforgiveness. Gandhi said, we will not be punished for our unforgiveness. We're punished by it. So think of all those things, those people, those things you're bitter about, that unforgiveness, all those things, those self-images of you, that was your past, it's not your future. And quit trying to get to the top of the mountain carrying all that garbage. Just leave it right under your seat right there, and they'll sweep it up later. Just leave it right here. And I'm not trying to trick you into being healthy, wealthy, and happy for the rest of your life. If 2 weeks from now you want to be bitter again, you can do that. It's all about you. For the last 25 years, I have been all around the world on a torturous thing they politely call a book tour. Now, if you haven't made this mistake in your life already, don't ever write a book. See, you think you did all the work when you wrote the book, and then they send you out on this tour and they try to kill you is what they try to do. And I have figured these publishers out. You see, they have more people that want to write books than they have slots for authors. So they send you out on this tour and they hope you never come back. And a lot of writers don't. They're just terminally lost out there in book tour land. So you get on a plane and you fly to a city you've never been to before and you really don't want to go to again, and a little guy picks you up at the airport and he takes you around and you do 5 radio interviews, 3 TV interviews, a magazine, a newspaper, make a speech, sign books, and get on a plane and you go to the next place the next day, and another little guy picks you up and you do the same thing, day after day after day. And after a while, you don't even know where you are. And I have been on so many of these shows. Good Morning Buffalo. Wake Up Cleveland. Go to Bed Omaha. I've been on all these shows. And after a while, you've met with hundreds and hundreds of reporters and interviewers, but there's only 7 questions they ever ask you. I don't know what people do for 4 years in journalism school. I really don't. But they all ask the same questions. And one question I've been asked more than any other is, Jim, out of all the people you met and you worked with, the movie stars, the athletes, the politicians, the millionaires, the billionaires, who has impacted your life the most? And there is one guy who's impacted my life more than anyone else. And I want to introduce him to you as I begin to close this morning. When I was 17 years old, I had a plan for my life. Had nothing to do with what I do now, but when I was 17, I knew everything. Those of you who have teenagers at home right now, you may be experiencing this phenomenon. I knew everything. I wasn't always right, but I was never in doubt. And I had a plan for my life. I was going to be an All-American football player and then go into the NFL and make my living as a professional football player. And the coaches and scouts that monitor those sorts of things assured me that I had the size and speed to do that, so it was just a matter of time. And I remember one year I showed up to play another season of football, and I got to tell you, for an Oklahoma guy to come to Austin, Texas, that's brutal. I wouldn't do this for anybody but love, I got to tell you. But every year before you go play big time football, they make you get a physical. They poke you, prod you, weigh you, measure you. They do all this stuff. They want to make sure that you're healthy before they take you out and try to kill you, is the way that works. And I remember this particular year, it was taking a long time. And this doctor had several tests, and then he shined a light in my eyes. He called another doctor in, and he shined his light in my eyes. And eventually a third doctor showed up, and he ran several other tests. And eventually the 3 doctors took me down a long hall, and they sat me down at this conference table, and they said, Jim, we're not sure why, and we're not sure when, but we do know someday you're going to be totally blind, and there's nothing we can do about it. And your whole world just stops right there. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I checked it out. Do you know at that time, and to this very day, there has never been a blind guy play in the NFL. Now, if you saw some of those preseason games last week, you would really question that. Well, I went back home to my hometown, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I enrolled in a local university. And near where I went to college, there is a school for blind kids. And I'm not sure what my motivation was. I don't know if I was trying to make a bargain with God or learn more about it or help out or what I was trying to do. But I went over to this school for blind kids and I met with the principal. And I said, look, I have no background, no training, no experience in working with blind kids, and I'd like to teach you. Well, you can imagine how excited they were to see me. Oh yeah, here's the guy we've been looking for all along. Let's get him on the faculty immediately. But she was very kind. She said, Jim, if you really want to do this, we do have one kid you can work with one-on-one. I said, I was kind of thinking of having my own class, actually. And she said, Jim, you either work with this kid or you get out of here. I have found throughout the years that when you don't have any choice, it's not that hard to make a decision. Would you like A or A? I said, okay, what do I teach this kid? And she said, Jim, that's just it. Christopher is 4 years old. He's totally blind. He has a lot of other physical problems. And Jim, we have determined that he's never going to grow or learn or advance or develop any more than he already has. So all we want you to do is keep Christopher quiet and keep him away from the other kids so they can learn, because Christopher's at the end of the rope. He's not going any further. Ladies and gentlemen, don't you dare ever forget that we always live up to the expectations we have of ourselves, or those expectations that we allow other people to place upon us. And I hate to be the one to come to your wonderful meeting and give you the bad news, but life isn't fair. It's great, it's grand, it's wonderful, and it's the only game in town, but life is not fair. And we don't always get what we want or need or earn or deserve, but I promise you, you will forevermore get what you expect. And if your life and your destiny isn't turning out the way you want it to, if you'll examine your expectations deep down, you'll find out you're just about where you thought you'd be. But you can change your life by changing your mind this morning. And the person that will get out of your chair in just a couple of minutes will be totally different than the person that sat down. Well, the only training they gave me to work with Christopher was two things. They said, Jim, you got to keep his shoes tied. We're afraid he's going to trip on a shoelace and hurt himself. And the other thing is you got to keep him away from the stairs. Very hard for blind people to climb up and down the stairs. We're afraid he's going to be injured. Other than that, we don't care what you do. So that first day I went out to meet Christopher. He was very, very small, much smaller than you would expect a 4-year-old kid to be. And he was indeed totally blind, and he had a lot of other physical problems. And that first day we sat down and had a serious conversation. I said, young man, before I leave here, no matter how many weeks or months or years it takes, you are at least going to learn how to tie your shoes and climb the stairs. And he said, no, I can't. And I said, yes, you can. And he said, no, I can't. And I said, yes, you can. And he said, no, I can't. And if you ever spent any time with a 4-year-old, you know, they can do that all day long. I had never experienced anything quite like that. Where are you right now? Well, meanwhile, I was attending the university, and those doctors were right, and I was losing my sight. I couldn't get around on my own anymore. I couldn't read anymore. I didn't know then what you know now. I didn't know I could exercise my right to choose and make quality decisions and change my life by changing my mind. So I prepared to do the only thing I thought I could do, which was quit. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know your name. I don't know where you're from. I don't know the challenges and obstacles and barriers you face in your world. But there's one thing I know about you better than you know about yourself. And that is quite simply this: when it comes to that big dream, that destiny, that reason you were put on this planet, it is always too soon to quit. You think you've tried everything, you think you've thought of everything, you think you're at the end of your rope, you're not even close. And I hope enough obstacles and barriers will come into your world so you will find out what a giant of a human being you were created to be. But I didn't know that, so I prepared to drop out. I went over to the school for blind kids. I met with the principal again. I said, hey, I'm going blind now myself. This will have to be my last day because I can't make it. I didn't realize they dropped Christopher off early that one day, and he was standing outside the open door to the principal's office, hearing that whole conversation. So when I went out to tell him goodbye and tell him I loved him and tell him I hope someday somebody else would show up and spend some time with him, he turned to me and said, yes, you can. And I said, no, I can't. He said, yes, you can. And I said, no, I can't. And he said, yes, you can. And as I was preparing to explain to this precocious, ignorant, sometimes obnoxious 4-year-old kid, this is different. This is not like tying your shoes. This is like going to a university. As I was preparing to explain my own failure to him, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Stovall, either get up and do something with your life or quit lying to the kid. 3 years later, I graduated with honors from that university, and that same week I had the privilege of my life, with what little vision I had left. In fact, one of the last things I ever really remember seeing was then 7-year-old Christopher climb 3 flights of stairs, turn and sit on that top step and tie both of his shoes back. That's the person that's impacting my life the most. It's not the movie stars, the athletes, the millionaires, the billionaires. It's a 4-year-old child that came into my life for 3 years to teach me the unadulterated wisdom of the ages, which is quite simply this. It doesn't matter what that dream is. The answer is yes, you can. The dream would not have been put inside of you if you did not have the capacity to achieve it. So when it comes to your destiny, the question is never can you. The question is, will you? About 6 weeks after that miraculous day, Christopher climbed the stairs. Christopher died of a brain tumor, which was the condition that had caused him to lose his sight in the first place. And as I was attending his funeral, one of the other teachers said to me, you know, isn't it a shame we'll never know what he could have done had he been given a full life? And I said, wait a minute, hold the phone. The kid has made his contribution. Because anything I do from this day forward, I owe to Christopher. And they told me I have shared that story now with over 4 million people live, just like you and I are talking. And many of them have done what a few of you are going to do today, which is exercise your right to choose, make a quality decision, and change your life when you change your mind. Using Christopher's example as a platform to examine your destiny. Because when Christopher died, it was like he had a will. He left me a few things, and I will leave them with you as I close. Christopher left me with a certain knowledge there's no such thing as an insignificant person. If God had ever created an insignificant person, it would have been Christopher. His whole biography would read, lived to be 7, learned how to tie his shoes and climb the stairs. That was everything he had to recommend him, but he has changed the lives of countless people. Christopher left me with a certain knowledge there's no such thing as an insignificant relationship. They're all critical, they're all important. You know, there are people in your world, you know, when it's all said and done, they're hurting, they're at the end of their rope. They won't do what I write about or talk about or make movies about. They'll do what you do. And when you really understand that interconnectivity, the way we're all put together in this world, you'll understand that you don't have the right for one day or even one moment to be anything less than the best you can be, and you'll understand that mediocrity is the most selfish pursuit of any human being.